Hello everyone, Shawn Kenney here, playing some Kerbal Space Program, and what I've decided to do, now that we got our station up there, I don't have a whole lot of fuel on it yet, so I can add some fuel modules, but what I thought I'd do is do an assembly of an interplanetary spaceship. So this is going to be the main core, and I'm going to add a lander to it, and I'll get them to rendezvous at the space station so they can top up on fuel before they leave Kerbal orbit and head out into the solar system. And I've tried to design this to be a general purpose. Now, if we have a particular target in mind, maybe going out to as far as Joule, it might require a little bit of redesign. But I thought we'd give it a try. We'll assemble it up in space and top it up in fuel. And then maybe try shoot for, I always tend to go for Duna, maybe go for Moho, or I know we can't land. I mean, if we land on Eve with the lander, we won't be able to get it back. But we'll sort of come to that. We'll set out for the stars. Is my idea. Just like I said, this is my idea. I've tried to put together a general purpose ship. So it's basically two main parts. This bottom part, all this orange tank, this is all boosters. Now I've set this up in asparagus staging. We have the solid rocket boosters for the first little bit to get us started. Otherwise, there's the two orange tanks and then the gray tanks on the bottom. That will prevent overheating of the mainsail engines. We'll lose the two of the side tanks, then through the asparagus staging. Then we'll lose the other two. Those will trigger off the separatrons, which will make sure that these big large tanks, because these separators aren't enough to push these large tanks out of the way, so I've added separatrons on those, so those will fire when each stage goes, and that will make sure that the rockets stay clear of our last stage. And then once that's complete, I'm really hoping that this will take us up into orbit, and then we'll be on our main Explorer module, which has 4 of these nuclear nerve engines. So those are going to be really efficient, but they don't have a whole lot of thrust. So any burns are going to be long, long burns. But I think we have quite a bit of fuel. These side tanks are set up in asparagus staging, so those are, I'm kind of thinking, are going to be primarily, hopefully don't have to use much of these as in getting into orbit and docking with the space station, and hopefully any that we do use we'll be able to top up, because my idea is these tanks are what we're going to use to hopefully get us out of the system, and then we'll be on this main center tank for our burn to any planet that we want to go to, and that hopefully that will give us quite a bit of range. And then we'll be returning on this module as well. We'll be docking up with a lander, which I have the docking node there, and I'll show you the lander once we get this up into orbit. And so then my idea is this. I haven't set these 4 engines up in asparagus staging, but we probably do that manually, depending on sort of how we're doing for fuel, and where we are as far as how we need to get home, right? So I anticipate that just this module, say like if we lose this last bottom tank, if we use all that for going out to another planet, then decelerating into orbit, and then we have to separate that. I'm hoping that just this, from this pod down and these 4 engines and tanks, this should be enough to get us pretty close to home. As we start using up fuel in these, what we can always do is transfer fuel to 2 side tanks. Basically, when they're all about halfway, what I like to do is then I'll stop a burn and transfer manually the fuel to the tanks, drop off 2 of them, and then we'll continue on in 2. That gives it quite a bit of range. If we still don't have enough, I do have a lot of RCS. I don't have this RCS set up for maneuvering or docking. What this mainly is once we've lost all our these nuclear rocket engines, and we're just down to RCS. Basically everything will be able to separate off and will be just sort of a capsule, an SAS module, and a tank of RCS. Now, it's kind of a pain in the ass doing a burn this way, but it does still give us a fair amount of maneuverability. I've decelerated from, like, if these engines got me into a Kerbal orbit, this RCS was enough to decelerate me and get me back home. And we do have a little bit of contingency plan that I have a little bit of RCS stored on the actual last command module with some RCS thrusters, so if we need to do a little bit of last minute maneuvering, we do have that option available. And then I have the parachutes on there, of course, to get us back. What I'll have to do is, if we get to the RCS phase, I'll need to top up these 2 tanks, because it'll like to draw from the top down. If I think about it, I could actually disable those on the launch pad, but if we're going to be switching between ships, that may not stay. So what I like to do is once you get down to the RCS phase, I'll top these tanks off and then shut them off, and then we'll be just drawing from this, and basically just use up as much delta V in each stage as I have, as possible. Is kind of my design philosophy around this ship. I have a little bit of battery storage. We have the large solar panels. I don't have nuclear reactors on this. I don't know if save weight. I don't know if it does. Whatever. I'm going to try and do this, all legit and plain vanilla. So we have the big solar panels, and once we get up out of the atmosphere and we're, just sort of cruising along on our nuclear engines, we'll be able to deploy the big solar panels, and we should have more than enough energy for to keep everything up and running, and any potential future science stuff that requires power. Hopefully this will still give us plenty of extra power. Alright, so this is the Explorer module. Give you the whole rundown of it. Let's get to the nuts and bolts. I haven't actually launched this yet. I've just gone through the test phase. This is kind of a ship that I've built many times over. Now, one of the updates that's coming apparently in 0.22 is we're going to be able to save blocks of modules. So what I could do is that whole lower, this whole lower booster phase, I could save this as a separate chunk. So once I have it all set up, all the staging done, I could save that as a chunk, and then whatever ship I'm designing in the vehicle assembly building, I could just then say, okay, now I want to use my base, my average, or this is my heavy lifter, so I'll get my heavy lifter booster module, and I just can load this all up as a chunk and then just plop it up on the bottom, and we'll be ready to go. So it's going to make building a whole lot easier. It's going to really make you can start to really think about, like, okay, this is my heavy booster. I can sort of figure out a range, like if I figure out what the weight of this is, say, okay, so I know this booster will take me so far, and I can name those accordingly. I could set up a few different booster stages for various types of ships that I have. Like I have a different type of booster for the rover, because it's quite a bit lighter and it's not nearly going as far, whereas basically I'm lifting up as much fuel as possible. That this is going to be going interplanetary. Alright, so we have the Kerbals all loaded. Let's lock on our SAS and thruster up. I'm not going to go full 100% because that will still explode our engines. Turn on our resources tab there, and we'll get right to it. Let's launch. Hopefully nothing collides. Alright, the first hazard is clear. Definitely got a little bit of go. I think we'll be able to do quite a bit. My almost worry is I might have a bit too much fuel. As it'll be. So I basically just want to get this into the orbit of the station, which once again I neglected to check the orbit. So we're probably in the worst possible place. We'll have to be playing catch up with our space station. Should have waited till it was around here maybe, so that when I was launching I'd sort of come up alongside it. But gonna have to pay attention here. Got the solid rocket boosters almost done. Gonna have to stage those. And yeah, alright, there we go. And then we're gonna be losing 2 of these side tanks relatively shortly here as well. Yeah, so we're almost done the 2, yeah, the orange ones are gone. And so I'm just gonna have to keep staging. We're slowly accelerating, not quite 150 meters per second yet, which is good. We're about 6 kilometers up, and I'm gonna have to stage. There we go. All right, I got the staging right. All good so far. We have a ton of fuel. We're almost up to the point where we're gonna have to start doing our gravity turn, and I think things are. None of the Kerbals, we're on like the B team, and they're not as thrilled about all this as Jeb is. That's for sure. I'm gonna start like nosing over a little bit. We're still not. Oh man, this is working out really well. Like I said, I've sort of made these designs, you know, all with small, slight variants. As you keep building it, you're going to sort of find your own preferred design of rocket, what you find works really well for you. But this being said, like, yeah, this is sort of what I've refined down to. I find tends to be quite reliable for me. Alright, so turn to 45. Yeah, now the other thing on 0.22 that I've been learning is they're working on a tech tree. I don't know how much it will necessarily be filled out by the time of the update, but you know, they're getting it in there. So that's going to be a really great thing, because right now that they have so many parts in there now that it can be a little daunting, and you can sort of forget about certain parts. If you're used to a few of the older parts, you tend to stick to what you know. And it looks like, you know, the tech tree is going to be really great. We're going to be able to go out and do some science, and then you'll be able to transmit it back with the antenna, which are in the game right now but currently don't do anything. So there's going to be, you know, starting to add like a real purpose to going out and exploring those systems. Now, you know, exploration for its own sake is fun, but it's going to be so much better when we can do a bit of science when we get there. There we go. So stage off blast. How are we doing? Still need to get more altitude. I think we can fire those rockets up a little bit more. We're definitely I'm really happy at how this is working. We don't think we have too much fuel. That's no longer a concern. But we still have like a good bit of delta V. I think this just might work out to work out pretty good. I still really need some height. We're like skimming along, slowly increasing our apoapsis. We can still burn this rocket for a fair amount of time. None of the Kerbals look particularly happy. I don't know. Hey, I think this is going relatively well. We still have all kinds of time to bail if need be. But I don't think so. I mean, it's going up slowly. But we are getting some, you know, nice lateral movement. Maybe as we burn more fuel down, we'll really start to get going. I know it's quite a heavy module. It's a whole lot of fuel that I've tried to pack into the smallest space as possible, and still have it be able to, you know, I was thinking I probably could have squeezed more tanks along the side here, but like it was getting to the point where it might interfere with those nuclear engines, and we don't want that either. Rupture of a nuclear engine would be a bad thing. You're going to have a bad day. Alright, looks like, okay, I think this is where I'm going to want to keep it, and I want to start to nose over. And I'm going to burn just sort of at the 90 degrees. Now, this would, if we, what do we got? We got a minute and a half. Not a huge time constraint. We are moving. You know, I don't use RCS for a whole lot, but this is one of those times when it can be helpful. I'm not using it now just because, as I said, we got a fair amount of time and we're moving along pretty good. But during this phase, if you have like a really heavy rocket, adding some RCS to the nose to get you moving during your first orbital burn here can really help out. Like I said, though, doing pretty good. You got 50 seconds, I think. It's time to get moving. Let's fire this engine up and give us some lateral momentum, and we'll get a nice orbit, hopefully. So we're just, I think, have just enough fuel. So like I said, yeah, I'll be able to, you know, if I just take the whole booster phase off, if I'll be able to save that as a chunk, figure out what this weight is, and then I could, when I'm doing other ship designs, I'll sort of know what maybe the max weight of this booster rocket is, and I could use that information accordingly. Alright, so I don't want to get my apoapsis up higher than the station. So I'm kind of going to be pulsing it. So I just cut engines. I'm going to wait till I'm a little bit closer. Doing this burn, it's going to raise my apoapsis anyways. So I may have to do some correction, but I want to try and avoid as much of that as possible. And because I'm going to have to be going around on the inside to catch up. If the station was behind me, I'd want an orbit slightly larger than the station, and that would slow me down to the point where I catch up, or the station catches up with me, rather. But, you know, since I didn't check the map before I actually went and launched the rocket, we'll have to be playing some catch-up, so we have a little bit of time-accelerated orbiting in our future, I believe. There we go. Okay, so it's got an orbit. Oh yeah, almost no fuel left in this, and I'm actually going to I'm actually going to drop it at this point because I want this to fall back to the atmosphere and burn up, so we don't have space debris. And I think you know, the amount of little orbital fidgeting, I don't think is going to require too much. We won't require any of these tanks really to get us in orbit. Maybe just a little bit, that's about all. So I'm just going to fire that off, and let's get us a little bit of thrust. And I just need to get my periapsis up over 70. I guess I should be on target. Yeah, it's a lot more maneuverable now. So I'll get this up to 60, or I want over 70, right? And what we'll do is we'll have a low periapsis where we get to do a little bit of catch-up, and this apoapsis, which is really close. I still need a little bit more. And hopefully at some point that we'll be able to line up. We'll set as a target, and so yeah, time accelerate. Alright, so at this point what I'll probably do is we'll cut the video, and I'll just cut back in once we get to the point when we're about to dock with the station. Alright, well, let's get ourselves all much aligned straight on as possible, because we only really need just one, and we can always just rotate. So, oh yeah, that's not really going to work very well. I'm going to have to be real careful. Is that, yeah, that's sort of boosting me up a little bit. And the SES is trying to compensate, but we're not really getting... Oh man, okay. Well, there's one other option, and this one's a little ghetto, but we'll give it a try. So if I just try and line up the docking, whatever they are, docking fingers, majiggers, yeah, those things. Yeah, so we'll line up the docking modules. That's what we'll call them. That's what it probably are. All right, turn on the RCS and let's just go for it. There's sort of the magnetic clamps that will engage. They don't work if you're going really quickly, but we're not going really quickly here. And we're kind of off a little bit. So I'm going to have to... Oh, come on. Try and stay on target just a little bit. No, don't rotate that way. Just try and angle ourselves so that we're a little bit more lined up. If the magnetic rings start to catch, if we can just get it in range for the magnetic clamps to start to engage, then I think we have it. Alright, it's close. It's close. Gonna angle ourselves down a little bit. Oh, we're bouncing back. The magnetic clamps are pulling us back in. Bingo! Alright. Whew. Well, so we have the Explorer is now attached to our station. We still have a ton of fuel in it, so we're not going to need a whole lot of topping off. So I'll turn the lights off now, and so these guys can they can take a break in the hab module, visit with everybody. And what I'll do is we'll have to get the lander up here now. So let's switch back to the Space Center. Alright everyone, back and have the lander at this point. And this got a much smaller booster. I don't know if this is going to be enough to get it up there. The lander's a lot smaller. So I'm hoping we'll try it. I don't know. Let me go through the design of the rover that I have going on here. Now, this might look a little odd. This is unmanned currently. So basically, from this point down, that's all booster phase. I just have a little rocket engine in here, one of these LV909s. I'm hoping this is going to be enough thrust. The big lander legs. It's enough to keep us down. I'm hoping... I basically designed this lander to be sort of a general purpose lander, mostly for vacuum moons, small moons. That's the main focus of it. But I did put parachutes on it in case we want to try and land on a planet that has an atmosphere. I think it might be able to get off Duna. I don't know. I haven't actually tried it yet. But most of the other atmosphere planets, it's probably not going to be able to actually get down and return. Like Eve definitely can't. Lathe, I think, once again, is kind of like a planet that you need almost as much thrust as Kerbal to get off of. Don't quote me on that. I actually don't know. I've only sort of been there once, and I just dropped a probe on, never even trying to get off. So this is mostly focused on sort of vacuum-based asteroids. That's my idea for it. I do have asparagus staging on these side tanks, so depending on what our need is, we'll be able to separate those off, whether I need to or not. Like, it will kind of depend on the situation. I have a small, like I said, this is unmanned, so this is actually a small little Probodyne controller up at the top, and this is what I'm going to use to fly it to the station, and then once we fly it to the station, I'll be able to detach this and return this little module is just going to return back and burn up in the atmosphere. Then we have a docking probe underneath. Oh, I don't want to mess up all the staging. So then we'll be able to dock this to our Explorer main ship, and we'll be able to take this with us, and this will be our little rover. So I kind of tried to, maybe it's a little over-engineered, but it should give us a fair amount of options as to where we want to explore, and with the possibility of getting back. That's always my primary concern is, hey, we want to go there, but we want to get our Kerbals back as well. So I put a bunch of parachutes on there in case we do try to send it to a atmosphere-based planet. And I'm kind of thinking maybe it can get to Duna. Duna is one of my favorite ones to test because it does give you a lot of options. You have an atmosphere, you have a moon, you're going a long distance, and but you're not going so far. Like, if you can get to Duna, chances are, with a little bit of tweaking, you can get much further. Even if it requires a little bit of gravity assisting to maybe sling yourself out there. Usually means that you have enough delta V that you have some options when exploring. So I've gone on about the lander, I think, long enough. Let's try launching it. Okay, so we're back and ready to launch our lander up to rendezvous with our station. And so this time I'm going to remember, and I'm going to wait until the IKSS is nearby. Now, okay, we have a slight problem in that okay, I don't think it's actually detached. Oh boy. I guess we probably need a little bit more structure to hold it, although that was the problem. I wanted to kind of put some docking clamps up here to keep the top from moving around, but they tended to interfere with these solid rocket boosters. Well, we'll continue time accelerating just a little bit. Hopefully the rocket won't shake itself apart. So I don't know, like, I'm guessing maybe that's should be pretty good, I'm hoping. Let's give it a try. Worst case scenario, it takes a little bit of time acceleration to get there. So I'm going to just fire the rocket off. She's got some go, that's for sure. Definitely much lighter. I do have a Kerbal in here. That was not my intention. I totally meant this to be unmanned. But I think it maybe with the Kerbal editor, it says, oh, there's space for Kerbal. So I don't know. Hans, you bastard, you stole away, and you're going to get a free ride to wherever our Explorer is going. You weren't intended to go, but you're going anyways now. We're going like, super fast here. I cut my speed down. We'll yeah, we're getting down to something a little more respectable. I'm kind of wasting fuel, I guess, going that fast in this lower atmosphere, but whatever. We have, we have a fair amount of fuel to play around with. I don't know what you're going to dock against. You may just end up having to float around, and then well, no, I'll have to detach. I'll top up the Explorer, detach that, and then have this attached to the same place. I guess I should start my gravity turn. We're going super fast here, but, well, not really super fast, but faster than, well, I guess we're up out of the upper atmosphere, so whatever. So want to try and intercept that, but I think I waited too long. So we'll be playing some catch-up anyways. The rocket really wants to... Well, what's going on here? It still says I have electrical charge. I have no control. We're just that top heavy. Alright, Hans, we have a problem. Oh, something broke, and the rocket is out of control. I have no thrust control anymore. we can try using our RCS. I don't know what broke. Oh, that bottom little bit. Alright, well, we better detach. I don't think we have any. Oh, we have. Yeah, so I don't think anything we do here is going to get us in orbit. This. I'm just testing the motor on it. I mean, it's changing our velocity. This is kind of heavy for this small little rocket, so I'm not even sure if this is going to work. There's so many variables that I really just don't know at this point. But I'll work on the lander. Maybe what I'll have to do is I'll do the lander as a separate video. Maybe include this little failure as a little bonus to the getting the Explorer up and docked with the station. Coming in at night really quickly. Poor Hans, he's scared out of his mind. You know, we're trying to fire the rockets downwards. What's the fuel? How is the fuel working? Is it? Oh, it is drawing from the side tanks. Good. We clearly have quite a bit of fuel in this. The total amount of fuel bar is going down relatively slowly. But we don't get these separate views, so I guess during flight we'll have to really keep an eye on that. Oh, look, we're at 4,000 meters. Let's just detach everything and fire off all the parachutes. You decouple. You decouple. Come on, decouple. I just don't want the weight. We'll drop our landing gear. This little dude, yeah, he's a little probe now, I guess. I could control him. Let's get him off us. And, oh. And I think, are the parachutes enough to slow us down? We're coming in probably like at the very limit. 10 meters per second is kind of generally the accepted threshold for landing gear. So I mean, I'd be able to give us a little bit of thrust. So I think, Hans, you survived this. Unfortunately, we had a little fatal flaw in that the bottom of our rocket broke off. So that was not a design feature. Yeah, that was not a design feature. But you did manage to test the survival systems, and oh, even at the slightly higher speed, we managed to do it all right. Well, good for you, Hans. We can deploy the solar panels even though there's no sun to pick up the rays and convert into energy. But whatever. I guess you get to walk away from this one, buddy. Lucky Hans. Okay. Well, not a landing on a different planet, but a landing on Kerbal, nonetheless, on actual land, and I have no idea where we are. It looks like we almost got. Where's the Kerbal Space Center? I have no idea. We'll time accelerate a little bit, see where we landed. I guess we kind of totally went the wrong way. All right, well, so yeah, I'll call this one done for the moment, and I'll have another video where I get the lander up to the Explorer, and then we'll blast off into interplanetary space. Yes, there's lander debris. All right, well, I've been Shawn Kenney, Kerbal Space Program. Always a fun time. You never know what, you have an intention of what you want to do, and you end up doing something completely different, or something not related whatsoever to what you wanted to do. Or sometimes you just, things fail and it doesn't work at all the way you wanted it to go. But that's the great part about Kerbal Space Program. So I've rambled long enough. Thanks for watching. So long for now.